So, is Mohamed Salah finished? Have his legs gone? That is the question we are going to address here today. Now, last season, Mohamed Salah was destroying all comers. He was getting goals, he was getting assists, there was successful dribbles, he was causing absolute mayhem in the Premier League and across Europe. So last season, the discussion was, is Mohamed Salah the greatest thing since sliced bread? Is Mohamed Salah the best player in the Premier League? Is he the best player in Premier League history? Is he the best player in the world? Should he win the Ballon d'Or? And this season, people are asking the absolute opposite. They're asking, is he completely finished and is he past his peak? Let's do a deep dive. Now, the first thing that we are going to look at is probably the most obvious thing, which is having a look at Mohamed Salah's stats this season and Mohamed Salah's stats last season. Okay, so we are living in a football world which is obsessed with stats, its goals, its assists, its distance covered, its XG. It is FBI, it's IRA, it's CIA. There's so many things flying around, but I am going to focus on what is important, which is what I always do. When it comes to a forward like Mohamed Salah, the decisive numbers are the goals and assists. So, as you can see on the screen, Mohamed Salah's performances in the current 2025-26 season have seen on the face of it a decline compared to his record-breaking 2025 campaign, during which he recorded the most goal involvements in a 38-game season, 47 goal involvements, the highest total in the history of the Premier League, a record which I do not think ever will be broken. Now, if we look at the next set of stats, this is a breakdown of his goals from last season. He scored 29 goals in the Premier League. He scored 3 goals in the Champions League, and he scored 2 goals in the English League Cup. Liverpool, of course, were knocked out of the FA Cup pretty early, so he did not play in that particular tournament. If you look at the bottom, you can see 52 appearances in total, which is fantastic in itself. He's a guy who rarely gets injured, a little bit like his predecessor, Sadio Mane. So 52 appearances last season compared to 34 goals in total in all competitions. A record which really, I think, possibly could have won him the Ballon d'Or, even ahead of the eventual winner, Ousmane Dembele, who took the award away a few weeks ago. So if we look at this season so far, you can see the numbers have dropped quite significantly. We have 18 appearances in the Premier League, 4 goals in total. We have 7 appearances in the Champions League with 2 goals in total. And I think it's quite important to include the AFCON. It is considered a major tournament. He scored 4 goals in Morocco during that tournament. Okay, so his total this season so far is 32 appearances and 10 goals. So obviously that is a massive drop off, and statistically on the face of it, there has been a decline from Mohamed Salah if one looks at the raw numbers. Okay, but it's a bit more complicated than that, because as you can see on the screen, Mohamed Salah averaged a goal involvement every 82 minutes last season, and that has gone up to 124 minutes this season. Now, that gap is not actually as big as one might think if one listened to people like Jamie Carragher, of course, who was heavily critical of Mohamed Salah over the winter. So 82 minutes per goal involvement and now 124. I don't think that is a really enormous increase, personally, given the number of changes there has been in the Liverpool team. Now, this is a very interesting stat, and I want people who say Mohamed Salah is completely finished to actually have a look at this. Now, what we have here is a list of appearances, goals, and assists. So you can put all those together and you end up with the number of minutes per goal or assist for each player this season. Now, if you look at the narrative on the media at the moment, if you look at how Ali McCoist, for example, was commentating in the Liverpool game at Sunderland a few days ago, I can see quite clearly there's a little bit of an agenda in the British media where Mohamed Salah is over-criticised, in my opinion, and Florian Wirtz is overpraised, in my opinion. So if you look at the stats, if Mohamed Salah is completely finished and Florian Wirtz is the new Diego Maradona, then somebody has to explain these stats to me. So Hugo Ekitike, 138 minutes per goal or assist. Second on the list from Mohamed Salah, who's supposed to be completely finished, is on 149 minutes per goal or assist. Then we have Cody Gakpo, who's supposed to be one of the worst players Liverpool have had this season, on 159. And then Florian Wirtz is on 208 minutes per goal involvement. Okay. Now, the reason I mention these things is because what I am trying to show you is that there is a narrative at the moment that Mohamed Salah is finished. There is a narrative at the moment that Florian Wirtz is going to win the Ballon d'Or. And what I am trying to do in this video is I am trying to come in between those two extremes. I'm trying to be nuanced. And what I'm telling you is this, that Mohamed Salah's numbers have declined. This is absolutely undeniable. But at the same time, they have not declined as much as one would imagine if one listened to the English media, in particular, people like Jamie Carragher. Okay. So I hope that makes people understand that yes, there's been a drop off. But if you look at the list, he has still been, despite all the problems, all the new signings, all the off the field issues, despite all of those things, Mohamed Salah is still this season the second most potent Liverpool forward. So that is something that Jamie Carragher needs to put in his pipe. He needs to put it in his pipe and smoke it. Now, moving on to the next stage of Mohamed Salah's career, I am now going to discuss what should Liverpool FC do with Mohamed Salah from this point on. And I am going to give my advice to Arne Slot, to Michael Edwards, and to Richard Hughes during this section of the video. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to make absolutely clear is that I am a Liverpool fan. I am not one of these Salah FC types like that Kanate FC guy on Twitter. I am a Liverpool fan. I supported Liverpool when Mohamed Salah had not even been born yet. So I am always thinking about Liverpool FC and what is best for the club. And then I try to fit players within that ethos. Okay. So what should Arne Slot do with Mohamed Salah for the rest of the season? Now, the first thing that I want to say is every single player must take responsibility for his own performances to a degree. Mohamed Salah is on £400,000 a week. That is £20 million a year. So he has to take responsibility for some of the drop-off that has occurred in terms of his goals and assists, although I don't think the numbers are as bad as people are making out. So that is the first thing that is very, very important. Mohamed Salah has to take some responsibility himself. The second thing that I think Liverpool fans have failed to understand, certainly the ones I have interacted with, is that they are comparing his numbers from this season to last season and just looking at the numbers in a raw form. Now, you see, this is the problem that you guys all need to think about. Mohamed Salah is now in his 9th season at Liverpool FC, and this is his first season where he has been asked by the manager to play as an actual winger. Now, people will say, what the hell are you talking about, mate? Salah's always been a winger. Where have you been for the last 10 years? Now, what I can tell you is that I have been watching football for over 30 years. I didn't learn football from Twitter. I watched it from watching some of the greatest Liverpool teams in the history of the world. I then had the honor of watching Pep Guardiola's team about 15 years ago. At that time, I had Sky Sports, so I watched them pretty much every week. So I have an excellent idea of what positional play is. And what I can tell you is Mohamed Salah has not really been a winger at Liverpool FC before. He has actually been what they used to call an inside forward. Okay, so he's been playing as an inside forward, and his job was really to wait for Roberto Firmino to distract the defenders, to move them out of position, to mess around with the DM, and then when the gaps were created, Salah's job was to dive into that gap and score goals, as many as possible. Now, what we have under Arne Slot is a completely different setup. Arne Slot has purchased Ugo Ekitike, he has purchased Alexander Isak. So why do I mention them? Because they are the first proper number 9s that Mohamed Salah has actually played with. So therefore, Mohamed Salah should be judged now as a winger. He should be judged against other wingers. He should not be judged against himself when he was playing in a free role as an inside forward last season. This is what you guys need to understand before you unload your AK-47s on Mohamed Salah. Okay, so my advice to Arne Slot is, if you are going to play him as a winger, which is what he has been doing, understandably so, because he's been trying to give Ugo Ekitike service, and he's also been trying to give Florian Wirtz the room to be creative in the middle of the pitch. So he doesn't want Salah cutting in all the time. I absolutely respect that decision from Arne Slot. I totally accept it. But at the same time, if he is playing as a winger, then 1 goal every 3 games is acceptable, and 1 assist every 2 games is acceptable for a winger. So Salah should be compared to other wingers. He should not be compared to himself when he was playing as an inside forward last season, cutting into the middle all the time, exploiting the gaps created by, for example, men like Darwin Núñez. Now, my advice to Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, okay? So this is my advice to Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes when it comes to what to do with Mohamed Salah. Now, the first thing I think that Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes need to do is they need to make a decision not to make a decision. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I don't think any decision should be made about Mohamed Salah. I don't think Liverpool should be talking to anybody in Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or in Outer Mongolia. I don't think Liverpool should entertain any discussions about Mohamed Salah until the decision is made about who is going to be the next Liverpool manager. Now, we don't know if Arne Slot will be the manager next season. I personally think it's quite unlikely. I personally think he would probably have to win the Champions League in order to be the Liverpool manager next season. But whatever decision they make, whether it's to keep Arne Slot, whether it's to bring in Xavi Alonso, whether it is perhaps to have a word with Luis Enrique or Julian Nagelsmann, whatever they decide, they need to do it in the right order. And what I mean by that is they need to decide what they are going to do with the manager first, and then that manager has to be involved in the discussions as to whether or not he wants to keep Mohamed Salah. Perhaps he can speak to Mohamed Salah, and perhaps Mohamed Salah might agree to becoming a very important squad member rather than a player who's always in the first team. The reason I say that is because Mohamed Salah, whatever numbers he has posted, however good he has been, one of the things that I can tell you about him is even though he is on £400,000 a week, I don't think he's money obsessed, because if he's absolutely obsessed with money, if that was his number one priority, he could have gone to Saudi 3 or 4 years ago and probably have earned £1 million a week for the last 3 seasons, okay? So my advice to Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes is don't do any deals for Mohamed Salah until you have first decided who your manager is going to be. And then perhaps Mohamed Salah, whenever he leaves, he can leave in a dignified way rather than what happened in December, where I think it is absolutely clear that the club were trying to force Salah out in a very undignified way in order to fund the signing of Antoine Semenyo and Mark Guéhi. Okay, so I thought that was very undignified. And the other advice that I would add for Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, as somebody who is from the Asian community, is that Liverpool is not always seen in the best light by Asians, by Africans. And I can assure you that if Liverpool treat Mohamed Salah really, really badly towards the end, perhaps in the same way that Manchester United treated Roy Keane, then I can assure you that African players will be watching this, Arab players will be watching this, and they will say, well, if that's how they treat a club legend, do I really want to go there? So this is something that I want to advise Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes on. Now, we have come to the end of the video. I hope you liked the video. I was a teacher for many, many years. So one of my joys in life is teaching people things. So I hope that if you watch the entire video and you manage to stay awake, I hope you learned at least 1 or 2 new things, okay? And if you did, it would be fantastic if you like the video. It would be fantastic if you subscribe. That would be the most important thing. And then please let me know in the comments, what do you think Liverpool should do with Mohamed Salah in the summer? Okay, thank you so much for your time, and I will speak to you very, very soon indeed.
Liverpool FC is hard as hell. United, Tottenham, Arsenal. Watch my lips, and I will spell. Cause they don't just play, but they can rap as well. Liverpool FC.
My idea was to build Liverpool into a bastion of invincibility, you know, like